only so many seconds in the day and you're out of them. That's when you have to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And that's when I say art and science, it is an art form, having to step back and look at the chessboard and figure out, okay, I have to get this done.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Zach Ewell, podcast producer here at Leader's Edge. In this episode of our Personal Lines podcast series, Associate Editor Chris Hann interviews Jessica Jung. Jung shares how her family, now and then, have helped shape who she is, her favorite parts about her home city of Cleveland, Ohio, what it was like underwriting a Topgolf facility earlier on in her career, and shares takeaways and stories from her evolution in becoming a business leader. Give it a listen.
You mentioned that you have twin sons, and they are a pitcher and catcher at the college level, although you just told me that one of them will be transferring to Ohio University, my alma mater, in the fall. But tell me about that. How did you raise two sons who grew not only to be a pitcher and a catcher, but to be a pitcher and a catcher good enough to compete at the college level?
Well, we spent many days, nights, and hours on baseball fields.
I cannot imagine.
Ever since they were almost 3.5 years old, those boys have been in uniforms, probably double their size at that age, but they have been out on the field playing baseball. Their dad was a baseball player. He played at the college level. And so when we
Where did he play, if I can ask?
Fairfield University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was a very, very good baseball player. And when we learned we were having twin boys, I thought, well, there's a lot of baseball in my future. So
it was fate.
Yeah. So of course, they had little big plastic little Tykes baseball bats from the moment they were probably one, and then the rest is history. So they had a passion for it, and they both loved it, which was wonderful. I think it's kind of special and fun that there's a pitcher and a catcher. The identical twin boys, but being a pitcher and a catcher has been kind of special their whole lives so far. And just last weekend, I was videoing them playing together, one on the mound and one back at the plate at the college level, which is a really cool thing to see.
I want to talk about your college experience because you told me that you were the first person on either side of your family to go to college. That's a big deal. Tell me about that. And I guess I'm wondering also, was this a goal of your parents? Were they quite insistent that yes, you're going to go to college, even when you were young?
I wouldn't say that my parents were insistent about it. I think it was just in my mind, well, of course I'm going to college. That's, it was just.
Even though you had no family history.
No, I guess I enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning. To me, it was a never not gonna happen thing. And I remember going through the process and starting to look at schools, and I ended up choosing Fairfield University. I lived in Connecticut at the time. I ended up choosing Fairfield. It was all I can say is there was something about how I felt when I visited that campus, and it just something clicked for me, and it was by far the most expensive option. And I remember my dad saying to me, kiddo, I don't know, we can't afford this. And so I really think you ought to rethink it. And I had already applied for the loans, and I was able to secure the loans. And I said, I'll be fine. I'm going to learn. I'll find a great job, and loans can be paid off. And so that's what I did. Now, it took me 13 years to pay off my college education. But I love the career I've built and the life that I have. And so you never know, you just don't know if you would have taken a different fork in the road where you'd be. So those days are long gone, and I've had an amazing lineup of opportunities, all because I was recruited from Chubb from Fairfield, and that's led me to where I am today. And I have no complaints, none at all. So
wow.
I wouldn't take back any of it.
Those loans were a good investment, I guess, right?
Yeah, they were.
You said when you got into the business world, you were fascinated by what you call the art and science of leading people.
Mhm.
So tell me what you, and maybe you've already answered this question, but tell me, I want to ask, tell me what you mean by that, the art and science of leading people. And did it surprise you that that idea was that you became so fascinated with that whole idea of the art and science of leading people?
I don't know that it surprised me, and but I would say that I have become more fascinated with that over the years because of my own learning and growth as a lead and development as a leader. Um, Nobody's perfect, and if I had to rewind the clock, I would do a lot of things differently about my own leadership style. I think early on in my career, I've always been known as the person who just gets it done, who dives in there and has the work ethic and sort of models the way there. I built a career on being able to, it's kind of like I've always been the person who could outwork anyone. And that works for you until you get to a role and a span of control and a need to scale where there's just the role's too big that you can't outwork. There's only so many seconds in the day and you're out of them. And so that's when you have to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And that's when I say art and science, it is an art form having to step back and look at the chessboard and figure out, okay, I have to get this done. I can't, it's no longer about me doing it and everyone saying, wow, she's such a good leader and a good worker, all of those things. You're not really a leader when you're the only one diving in and doing it, and the others around you are like, look at her, isn't she great? Like, that's not really a leader. So I think it takes you so far. And I learned the hard way through, my own, God, I think when I think about the hours and months of time I've poured into things that I probably didn't have to and shouldn't have been doing, but that's how you learn. And you learn from feedback from your team and others around you, above, on the side, all over, of like you don't have to be the doer, right? And so you have to learn how to trust and challenge in the most positive way and develop others. And so when that light bulb went off in my brain, mostly because you get to bigger leadership positions and then now you're gonna fail in that position if you can't figure out how to inspire and lead others without diving in and doing it for them. So I got over that, and I now, from an art perspective, I sit back and recognize it's not my job to tell and do. It's my job to ask questions and learn who these people are and how they see the world and what they see as their responsibility, their opportunity, all of those things. Where might there be gaps? Are they skill gaps or are they will gaps? And it's my job to identify those gaps and coach and mentor and inspire to fill them. And so when I started to look like, okay, my job is not to do anymore, it is to do through others and get them to really lead. Now that's fun for me because I recognize like that's what success looks like in me being a good, effective leader. And that to me is fun because it's still challenging. I tell everybody, and I'm incredibly vulnerable, especially with my team, about my own development and my own development areas. And I think that helps others see theirs, and we're in it together, right? We're working on this together. And so I just see it very differently now. I've learned the hard way, and I can share those learnings with others who have the same challenges, who have the same approach, and then others who don't, who just maybe just have some gaps. And I'm kind of like, I just had a conversation today where I was like, listen, I made everybody talk about the one big thing as a leader. We all gave each other feedback. What's the one big thing you heard that you're going to work on? We all shared it publicly. And I said, we all owe it to each other to be our accountability partners on our one big thing. So we get to do that. We get to say, you're doing it again, or you guys all call me out on it. And now I just had a conversation this morning to say, you know what, my one big thing is that I don't jump in and do. I sit back and say, who owns this? Who needs to learn from it? And I hold them accountable to do it. I'm always here to help, but it's a different ballgame right now. So I just literally say, hey, I'm working on my one big thing. You know what that is. So what do you want to do?
Was
And
there was there any common ground on the one big thing among your coworkers?
um, there was some common ground, but most of it, I mean, there a lot of diversity, which is good because that's how you help each other. Because then you try to match make people who have strengths with people who are looking to develop, and then kind of become these natural accountability partners. So we spreadsheeted it, we matched each other, and try to have a little fun with it, which I think is cool. So you all develop in the most supportive, sort of fun way, and it makes us all better. And I think being honest and transparent with each other helps development as well. I mean, they get to tell me, and I sometimes they do like, Jess, you're doing it again. I'm like, "Crap, I'm doing it again. Okay, back, rewind, let's start over." And so it gives them permission to make, to do the same thing. I'm doing it again. It's my default, but so what are we going to do? And that's how we learn. That's how you develop new habits.
Let me ask you if you can talk a little bit about your evolution as a leader. You said you've made mistakes, and obviously you learn from those mistakes, and that's how you do things better the next time. Um, maybe in a broad sweep, what can you tell me about your evolution as a leader?
Very broad. I went from um, dive in and be the doer to step back and be the leader, be the inspirer, be the person who asks the right questions.
Figure out
And
who needs to be the doer.
that's right. And the best way I can articulate why was I the doer? I think back and look at it, and I recognize that what it was going through my head at the time was, I'm a driver. I'm not a perfectionist. I am a driver. This has to get done. It doesn't have to be me. But when it wasn't getting done, instead of stepping back and trying to get it done through the right people, I just be like, okay, look out, I got it. I got it, I got it, I got it, until you don't have it because there's too many balls in the air to catch, right? And so that driver mentality was one thing. And then, so depending on the people, there's a lot going on, and I'm always a helper too. So I'm like, you know what? You do that, I'll get this. I have this incredible stamina. I can multitask and do a lot at the same time. So for me, it's like, you're overwhelmed. It's almost like I felt guilty. Yeah, I felt guilty not helping do it versus sitting back and ask. I've never been that kind of person. So I could just honestly say that's what was going through my head. Now that I see the world differently and recognize that that's not my job anymore, my job is, I can't be the rescuer, because people then lean on you, and then you're not effective because you can't get it all done. I'm still only one human, despite that I think I'm Superwoman, apparently. And so once I started to see it that way, you realize, like, I'm actually failing at this job if I'm jumping in and doing. And now I sit back when something's not going the way it should, or the way that I've asked people to do it, or something's not working. I now hit a pause button. My default is to dive in. I literally feel it and watch myself start. And then I'm like, nope, pause, pause. This is not, don't write that on my to-do list. Who owns it? So I've just taught myself the line of questioning to help with the, what's the word? The coping of that an instinct to dive in. And I say, pause, who owns this? Ideally, what should be happening? And Jess, what are you going to do to drive the ideal that should be happening? That should be happening. Why is it not? If it's not, it comes back to me. That's on me. There's a gap somewhere. Someone doesn't understand. We don't have clarity, whatever that is. So I sit back, I pause, I try to diagnose, why is the ideal state not happening? And then when I answer that question, I diagnose the problem and get in there to help bring clarity to, what is not happening and why. And sometimes those are tough conversations with people, and I have to say, and I will even say this, and they all know me so well, so it's easy. I I feel like, this is not happening, and I feel almost guilty not diving in to help you, but ideally, ideally this shouldn't even be on my radar. So let's talk about what's going on. Let me help you. I will help coach you through it, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because you own it. I don't. And so that's my one big thing. And when I said it to everybody, everyone's like shaking their head. I said, guys, what you lack is the perspective of being the human bottleneck that I've become because I dive in and rescue you all. and not just all you, but then you wait in line, and then the line becomes longer for you, and you can feel the ineffectiveness of that. And so I'm going to be better for you. So that means no hot potatoes. Everybody has clarity on what they own. And if you all step up and own it, we have no problems. And if balls are dropping, then we got to talk about what's going on. And I'm going to point it out and ask why and try to help you instead of dive in and do. So probably a longer answer than you needed, but it's been a great
All
shift.
good.
And those, I feel like I'm able to step up and be more strategic. I can think, I can work more on the business than in the business. That is absolutely required for me to be effective in this job. And oh, by the way, I actually have a little bit more of a life and I don't feel guilty about it anymore.
Hmm.
So that's been a good thing. It's been good growth.
You are in Cleveland,
Yes.
a much maligned city. Tell me the three best things about living and working in Cleveland.
Well, there's lots of good things. I just sat on a panel last night and talked about this very thing. That's so funny. Um, Cleveland is a um, gritty, hardworking, real place to be. People actually care here. Leaders pick up the phone. Um, People collaborate to solve problems. I was in Connecticut, I was in New York, I was in Tampa. I've never felt there's a sense of community,
Hmm.
there's a sense of collaboration. There's access to people, there's access to, I mean, just geographically where we are, we're well placed to be, a good place to be from a business perspective and industry perspective. And so, while it's not, one of the fastest growing cities and one of the cities that gets all of the attention, it is a hidden gem here. There's a lot of cool industry. There's a lot of cool, art and science and healthcare and theater and all of that. It's a great place to raise a family. When I got here, I literally came here kicking and screaming somewhat, saying, "Do I really have to go to Cleveland? You have to be kidding me." I mean, I got the call in Tampa and they said, "You're ready to run your own office?" And I'm like, "Where?"
Whoa.
And they said, "Cleveland." And I thought, "What?" And
That's a big move.
I was going to be here for 2 to 3 years max, and then they were going to move me out back to the Northeast, and maybe I would run the Boston region or go to home office in New Jersey. And I said, "Okay, I can do that for 2 or 3 years. Fine." And I got here and I quickly learned what a cool place this is. You have really great, genuine people. I love genuine people. Cost of living is very manageable. It was a wonderful place to raise my boys. They were 5 when we moved here and they started kindergarten. Now they're freshmen in college. I
Wow.
never thought we would be in the same house for this long. We would be my kids would go through the same school system. Building relationships and friends has been amazing. So I love it for the people. I love the fact that I said it, leaders pick up the phone. You can get things done together. It's people want to help each other. They're great connectors to other people. Everybody just tries to help. And that's hard to find. And you don't find that everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's how I think. That's how I like to operate. And so I feel like I fit here because that is the culture of Cleveland.
You have been in insurance for more than 25 years, I believe, right?
Yes, yes. I started in 99, so coming up on
27
20.
years. What has kept you in the business?
Oh boy, here we go. I love this one. All right. I tell anyone who asks, especially young talent and I remember when someone said, "You should go work for Chubb." I'm like, "What's Chubb?" An insurance company. "Oh no, that's not for me." You sort of picture yourself as like a door-to-door life salesperson. And that was definitely not me. I was not a salesperson ever, right? And so the best things about insurance, we literally make the world go round. You cannot function in anything if you don't have insurance. You can't fly planes, you can't deliver product, you can't drive trucks, you can't do anything. So we make
Can't
the
buy a
world,
home, can't buy a car.
you can't do any of that, right? So we literally make the world go round, even though we never get the credit. It's definitely not a sexy thing. So we never get the credit for that. However, that's true. It is a recurring business. You don't have to start over every year. It's a recurring business. It is recession proof. When you think about all of the ups and downs of the economy, no matter what's going on, you still need the same insurance. Now, some things are a little bit better than others, deals being going on, you probably drive less, or that's low, you drive less activity, but you still need all of the required needs. And so you make the world go round, it is recession proof, it's renewable, you don't have to start over every year, you build the business, and then there is literally something for everyone, from actuarial needs to sales and everything in between. No matter who you are, what your skill set is, what your competencies are, there's a place for everybody. So I look at that and say, with an industry that makes the world go around, that's recession proof, that's renewable, and a place for everybody, it's a pretty lucrative, solid, stable career. And you also become very interesting. As an underwriter, the amount of different companies and organizations that I had to underwrite, so that you have to go really learn not only what they do and how they do it, what could go wrong. I become interesting cocktail conversants. Like, you just become so much more knowledgeable about so many things because you have to learn them as your job. And so, I just was saying to somebody the other day, we were talking about Topgolf, and I was like, did you know that I was the underwriter on the very first Topgolf out of New York? And I got the submission. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And now it's, we go all the time, the boys love it. And I always just think about, I was the underwriter on it out of New York. So, and so many other cool things that you just get to learn and do. And then as a broker, the same thing. I mean, you got to dive in and really understand your clients and stay ahead of their industries and think ahead of risk. And you think of the world of cyber. I mean, I just was talking about it last night about you can't even keep up with the risk, and we all face it personally and professionally, and counseling clients to think of code words now because AI is taking over voice impersonations and your backup plans don't even work anymore. And I could go on and on and on, but I feel like I'm so much more knowledgeable, and it makes you more interesting as, a person to talk to at a cocktail party. You can talk more about, you can contribute to more conversation. So anyway, I can go on and on why I think this is a great industry. It gets a bad rap, or it gets no rap. It gets no attention. But you talk to people who have built careers here, and it's fun, it's interesting, it's exciting, it's never dull. And it's a pretty rewarding career.
That was Associate Editor Chris Hann interviewing Jessica Jung, President of Oswald Companies. I hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes of our Personal Lines podcast series, go to leadersedge.com or subscribe.